Welcome to the class. In this class and next few classes, we will be developing a very long Android program. And while developing that program, we will learn about the concepts that we had seen in earlier videos. We will do this learning by programming and how to see how to use those concepts when we write a program. So in the coming program, we will actually be using fragments, activities, intents, databases. That is everything that we have learned so far. The program example has been taken from bignerdwrenchguide.com and the program code is available on the website www.bignerdwrenchguide.com. However, I have tweaked the program a little bit so that you do not directly copy, paste and run it. So if you want a similar program source, please go to the website and download the code. But watch the videos and develop the code yourself so that you can learn how to use those concepts yourself. So let us get started. I will give this program the name report intent. The original program from Big Nerd Ranch Guide calls it crime intent, but we are changing that. So let's make it the program report intent. Those of you who cannot see, so this I have given. The domain name, etc. is already there. Project location is given. Then I press next. And as usual, I'm choosing API 23. I am only developing for phone and tablet. I'm not choosing any option of Wear, TV, Android Auto, and Glass. Then I press next and Android creates my project. So let me kill them. So as you can see that currently the Android is updating and now it creates. Okay, so many of you have seen this screen already. So we will start with empty activity and we will call this activity report activity. So you can see that the layout name is automatically changed and now I do finish. So the name that I have given is report activity. Let me just show it to you again. Activity report. Now I click finish. My project is getting built by Android and very soon we will get the editor. Yes, so now the editor is up. The Gradle system is still working and here it is. So the program has been created. Report activity has been created. Currently Gradle build is running. That's why we are seeing these errors, but soon we will be fine. Okay, so now our basic program structure is there. So I had earlier told you that when we develop fragments, we use the support library. I'm going to now use the support library so that when we start developing fragment in this program, we are using support library and not the Android OS version. So the way to do it is to go to your program, go to your file, go settings, sorry, not settings, but go to your file, go project structure. In the project structure, go for app, go for app. In the app, you will see dependencies on the rightmost tab. click on dependencies, and now you will see a plus sign. So I do a plus sign, and now from the second library from the top, which is the support-v4 library, is what we need. So I select it and I press OK. Now I can see that this has been added. Let me magnify it for you. So yes, I went into the project structure, went into the app, dependencies, used the plus sign to add this particular library. So now this is added. I press OK, and let's go back to normal mode. So now we are fine with the setup, and if you want to check is, for example, if I go to my build.gradle, the module app, you can see that the new library which I added is now here. So we are all set, and we will now move forward to developing our program. Okay, now let's go back to our main file report activity.java. The one thing that we want to create is that we would like to use fragments in this program. So I am going to change the code a little bit. I will make it fragment activity. When I do fragment activity, it gives me a choice. So I have to choose the support.v4. I choose it, and you can see that a new import statement has been added to my program. This is correct because that's the import statement that I wanted. So everything is fine, and I just save my program. So yes, so our basic application is ready. Fragment activity I have created. Later on we will see how to extend this program. For the time being, I am just going to add another file which I will call report.java. So I right click, go to new, I do Java class. I want to make it in the main, press OK. I give the name. I press OK. Okay, so actually by mistake I've created it outside the package. Let me put it back into the package. And now you see that we have got two files. One is report activity and the another is report.java. Let us make some content into the report.java. So the program that we are trying to make is a list of reports, and once a person clicks on a report, then it sees the details about the report. Now this program uses several concepts. Number one, that if the program is being run on mobile phone, then the details will open on a different screen than what the reports were being displayed on. The report list was being displayed on. But if the same program is running on a tablet or any other device which has a bigger screen size, then on the left side, in around 1/3 part of the screen, the list is displayed, and then in the rest of the screen, the detail is displayed. The data of the reports will be stored using database. So by the time you finish this program, you will have revised all the concepts that have been taught to you so far. And that's the purpose of this program. And as I said, if you want to download the code, you can go to www.picknerdwrenchguide.com and you can download it from there, because that's the example that I'm taking. But the best thing would be to develop it myself as I am developing by watching the video, so that you learn it yourself. Let's create the report class, and we will put few things in the report class. So I would like to have each of my report to have a unique ID. So in Java, we already have something called UUID. I will use that. And as you see that the import has already been added, I will call it MID. Then I will have something like private string mTitle. Then I will have a constructor created for it. So public report. My constructor does nothing but just assign MID equal to a unique ID generated from UUID class. That's it. Then I write some getters and setters. So public UUID get ID, and I do return MID, and I also do a getter for the title. So public string get title, and I do it mTitle. Okay, so this is fine. And then I would also like to do a setter which says public void string title. Obviously the method name is set title, not mTitle, set title, and I do mTitle equal to title. So these are the two getter methods and one setter methods that I have created. Now last time when we were learning fragments, I had told you that there are two ways to add a fragment. One is by code and another is by XML. So in this program, because I said that we will be using fragments, so when a list, when an item on the list is clicked, then a new fragment should open giving the details. So let's make a place for that fragment to appear, and instead of adding the fragment in the code, we will add that fragment folder in the XML, which basically requires me to go down to the layout, find out the activity underscore report.xml, as we can see here, go to it and change it so that we can create a fragment container. So I am going to remove all of it, as you may know. First I start with removing the text view, then I change the relative layout to frame layout, and I am fine with this field. Maybe I would like to give it a different ID because I'm going to use it as a fragment container. I'm going to give it an ID of fragment container. Then match parent is fine. For the time being, we can even remove these to just make it look very simple. Now if I go to the design, I see that this has not really changed anything so far, but very soon you will see the changes. So we have now created a fragment container. Now in this container we can put any fragment because we are not giving name of any particular fragment here. So this is more like an empty container for a fragment to come later on. Now since I have created the container, let me now add another layout file which defines my fragment. So I would add a new layout file, and I will call this file as fragment underscore report. I press OK. My fragment report opens. It already has a linear layout, which is fine. That is what I wanted, but I need to add something more to it. So first line is okay, layout width, layout height is okay, orientation is okay. But what I would like to add is a text field here, which is editable text field, in which I can write the detail of a brief detail of a report. So edit text Android. First thing I'm going to give it as an ID. I do at I at plus ID report underscore title, because that is what this field will contain. I will then go to Android layout width. I will call it h parent. I will then go to define Android layout height, and I will call it just wrap content, and then I will give a hint which is nothing but at string slash report underscore title underscore hint, and then I close my edit text. It is giving me a warning. Let me check. Layout width sorry, I have given the weight while I should have given the width. Okay, so this is all good. Now my error is gone. I still have a small warning because I have not created a string resource corresponding to report title hint. So I need to create that string resource, and that string resource, as you already know, we create in the values strings.xml. So I type report title underscore hint, and then I can say, I can give any hint. For example, I can just say enter title. Okay, and this is fine. Now if I go back, my error should go away, which it has gone away. Now let's move on and create another class here, and we will call this class a report fragment. So as you may have already guessed that I am adding some fragments to my program. So I will again I will choose Java class, and I will call it report fragment. To an add, I got a basic Java class. First that I will do a extends fragment. Now here there is something very important for you to look at. When I do extends fragment, the Google is giving me two options. One is fragment Android app, and another is fragment android.support.v4.app. Let me magnify it to you further. So I go to fragment, and Google gives me two options, Android app and android.support.v4.app. I will choose the second one because the second one belongs to the support library that we want to use. So I do this, and let me get out of magnifier. When I select the one, the import statement reflects that now the library that has been imported is android.support.v4.app.fragment. So this is a very important step which you should do carefully. Otherwise you may run into some compilation errors. At the least, at the most, you may be using a version of fragments which you do not know. You wanted to use a library, but you ended up using the ones. So you should be very clear what type of fragments do you want to use. And as I said, It's always good to use the fragments from the source library, support library. Now, this extends fragment and let's start. So we will first create a variable of type report which we created earlier. I will call it mReport, and then we will be overriding few functions. So we will be overriding our onCreate, bundle. We will just use the standard name instance state, and I will just do an alt enter. Now inside this I would have to, first thing I will have to do is to create a super. We created the super method, and then the second thing I do is I instantiate my variable to new report override public view on create view, as you may have imagined, because we are now dealing with fragments. On create view, and let me first say alt enter. In the on create view we will have three parameters as we studied earlier: layout inflator, comma view group container, comma bundle saved instance state. Alt enter. Now you will have to create a view. Watch very carefully now what I do. So we will have to inflate a view. So which view do we want to inflate? So we have got, in our layout file we created something, and that is what we would like to inflate. So I say r.layout dot fragment report container dot false. So we have studied all of that. Now we are just using it. Return v. Good. So now our report fragment.java is ready, report is ready, report activity is ready. Now the second thing that we are going to do is that once this fragment is inflated, we would like to have the ability to edit the edit text. So in order to do that, we will have to create a listener to it. So let's go back to our report fragment class and add a first let's add an edit text field. So I will just call private edit text equal to m title field, and then I will just go to m title field equal to add text v dot find view by id. Find view by ID, as we have discussed earlier, returns you the ID from the r.java class. So if you want to look at the r.java class, you can type on your Android Studio r.java and it will open. But my advice is to not touch it, because if you modify anything in r.java, your program most likely will stop compiling and you will have to spend a lot amount of time to rectify the error. So we have already studied this function. We are just bringing the ID of the edit text field. So edit text field, we are bringing the integer ID of it. So find view by ID, where the title is the report title. So this is the report title. So what I am saying is, just return me the integer that corresponds to this particular view element, view object. And the second thing I want to do is to add a listener. So there is something called add text change listener, in which we will see if we have added any new text. And as you see that Android already fills in a lot of text for me. So new text watcher, and it overrides a method called before text changed, on text changed, and after text changed. Before text change takes some parameters which we leave. On text change is where we are going to make some changes. So we will say, what we will just say that m report dot set title, we had put a setter equal to char sequence dot toString. So this is our, so we have only modified for the time being on text changed. So when we, the idea is when we put this text, we want to set the value of this field. So that is it. Now we have done a lot of work, so let us just run our program. So as usual, I am using the emulator with API 23. Recently, in last week, you may have seen Nougat getting released and installed on your device. So maybe in the next program, we will use the emulator with the Android 7. So this gets initialized. There's really nothing much that is happening here, but our program overall is running fine. So if you go to layout files, you can see there is nothing happening here. There's nothing happening here. Okay, so that is all right. Now let us do some more work. We had learned the use of Fragment Manager. Now we are going to use it. So I have gone to the report activity class, our main class, which was our report activity class, and I'm going to use a Fragment Manager. Manager fm equal to get support Fragment Manager. How are we going to use Fragment Manager is what we will see very shortly. Now the first thing to watch is that we got a method called get support Fragment Manager. The support is coming from the support library that we are using. If we were not using support library but the Android OS version, then we would have got method only called get Fragment Manager. Now let's move forward and write some code. So the first thing that I am going to do is to do fragment. Again, I have made sure that I'm using this fragment equal to my fragment manager dot the same method, similar method, find fragment by id. Now which id do we give here? So we are using a method called find fragment by id, and what is interesting now is to see that which id we give. So first let me write the code and then I will explain you the logic. We have as such got only two IDs here. One is the ID of the report and the one is the ID of the fragment container. So I am giving the ID of the fragment container, which I defined here. Now you may be wondering that why did I give the ID of the fragment container? So this is a very common practice to give the ID of the container in which the fragment is to be brought in, and from the container then you extract the fragment. So we are doing the same thing here. We are giving the ID of the fragment container. Now what I want to check is that is this fragment which is present in this fragment container, if it is null or not. Now this is another line which you may wonder, why do I need to add? Because we are just starting the program. But as you see that fragment, just like activities, goes through multiple life cycles. So for the very first execution of the program, this is not really needed. But if we are interacting with our phone, for example, if we press a back button or we press a home button or if we get a call, then our fragments may go in different life cycle states. And that's why when we use the program, it is important for us to know whether we are starting with a fragment which is already there or whether we are starting from zero. So we check that if fragment is equal to null, in this case, which is our first case, we will actually create our fragment. So we will say new report fragment. Here is our report fragment, which was there, which is nothing but using the layout of the fragment report. So new report fragment, and then I do the transactions which we learned earlier. So I am going to add this fragment. So I write the command begin transaction and then I do an add r.id.fragment container. So in the container I'm using this fragment and then I do a commit. Now let's look at the code again. First thing we want to see is that if the fragment is already there or not. For that we use the find fragment by id and we give the id of the container, and if there is nothing in the container then we know that the fragment is not there and the value will be set to null. This will happen for the very first time. For that very first time we create our fragment and then we add that fragment into the container using the transaction methods. Now this sort of completes our code. So last time when we had run our code, there was nothing on the screen. Now let's run our code and let's see what happens this time. So let us check. Okay, so this time we have got our edit text method here, because what happened in the program is that, let's go back, let's see the report activity. So in report activity, let's see what is happening. Let's keep our program together. So you see that report.activity first sets the layout to the activity underscore report, and activity underscore report has a very simple layout like this. This is what we were seeing earlier. After that, what we do is we start a fragment manager and we add a fragment to it, and that particular fragment is using the layout of fragment report. How is it using the layout of fragment report? Because we have created the fragment using the new report fragment. And if we go into the new report fragment, then in the on create view of new report fragment, we have given the layout of fragment underscore report. And this is our fragment underscore report XML, which has an added text. So if I come back, so basically in my activity class, I have added a fragment which is using the fragment layout, and that is the layout that I see here. So that makes a very basic but complete program from the scratch of using a fragment through the code. So this is the code that is bringing that fragment in. In the XML, we only define the container. So now let us discuss some other things related to the fragment, especially why do we use support library and not the Android OS version. So the major user reason of using support library fragments are that simply that you can update the version of the support library in your application and ship a new version of your app at any time. So you need not to depend for the OS update. And also that the new release of support library come out multiple times a year. So it is also the more updated version of it. Another reason which we told earlier that support library also supports even the older devices than the another version of the fragment. So these are some major reasons why we use support library fragments, and whenever you use fragment, please make sure that you use the support library fragments because this is also recommended by Google and Android developers. Thank you. This is a good lecture containing everything that you need to create a fragment. We will continue in the next lecture building on the same program but adding some more functionalities. Thank you.